This is your no bullshit guide to a happier life. Quick, but not necessarily easy tips to help you to squeeze every last drop of enjoyment out of your business and your life. My name is Helen Calvert. I'm a coach, a business owner and a parent, and I'm so happy to be here with you. I do swear occasionally, as the title suggests, so pop in your headphones if I'm not safe for little ears. Ready to go? Let's do this. This episode is sponsored by Catherine Rogers of Face to Face HR Newcastle. Catherine knows that what really makes the difference between tick box personnel and flexible people-oriented HR is communication. For Catherine, the overarching solution lies in very simple formula. Do what you need to, but be human, constructive and compassionate. Catherine's clients value the fact that she lives this in her business every day. Her main aim is to help small businesses to grow, to take the fear out of people management and employment law, and to provide friendly and accessible HR support with empathy and humour. She doesn't do corporate politics or red tape. She doesn't frighten her clients into buying with horror stories of tribunals or make them jump through endless procedural hoops. Catherine brings the curiosity and expanded horizons gained during 7 years as an expat in Dubai to her dealings with people in her business today. Her clients benefit from a true understanding of what makes people, well, people. And being naturally interested in what makes them tick, Catherine will approach their problems from every perspective, legal and commercial, ethical and personal, in order to find a solution. Her client relationships don't end on the last page of their employee handbook. Want to find out how Catherine can help you get to people results? Find all of her links via the show notes for this episode or head to smart.bio/face2facehr_Newcastle. That's a digit number 2 in the web address. Hello and welcome to this episode where we're going to be talking about the creative brain. The reason I have called it that and I haven't said ADHD is because I am not here to diagnose anyone with anything. I am autistic. I work with a lot of people who know they have ADHD and or autism. I know a lot of neurospicy people, but it is not my job to diagnose people. I do, however, work with a lot of people who have what I call the creative brain. And whether they have ADHD, whether they have traits of ADHD, or whether they're neurotypical but they just have certain challenges, it's not for me to say. But there are things that I know about a certain brain type which seems to coincide with being super creative. And I have learned things about how to help anyone like that to get shit done. So that's what I want to share today, those learnings. So the first thing I want to say is if you struggle with getting stuff done, focusing, being consistent, working before the deadline, focusing on more than one thing at once, coping with large paragraphs of text or large lists or doing things you don't particularly want to do, all of these things, you are not broken. Let's start there. None of us is broken, okay? I heard something from you. You probably have heard this from the actual source. I can't remember what the source was, but I heard something fantastic from a friend of mine a few weeks ago about how back in the day, way back in time, thousands of years ago, when we're hunting and gathering and farming and living in caves, whatever, there was a reason that there were certain different brain types. If you are a farmer, you have to do the same things. Every day, every season, every year, it's the same. You follow a system. And if you follow that system, the food will grow. Hello, autistic people. If you are a hunter, you have to have laser focus on your quarry. And you have to expend an enormous amount of energy catching it. And that is all you should be thinking about. And then when that's done, you collapse and you don't want to do anything else for quite some time until it's time to hunt again. Hello, ADHD people. So there's reasons. It makes sense to have these different brain types. But again, as we've talked about in other episodes, today's world is not set up for really anything other than, I guess, a neurotypical male. I mean, I don't know. I think there's plenty of neurotypical men out there who don't feel like the world is set up for them either. I'm not sure who it is set up for, but we're not broken. The world and the setup we have may well be broken. We are not broken. Check out the show notes for this episode for some links to a book, a TikTok account, an organization. I'm just going to put some links in that you might find helpful if this is new things for you to explore. So the problem we have is that if we grew up with this creative brain that can laser focus on something that we're really into, but really struggles to do anything we don't want to do, and doesn't really show up consistently. I mean, I refer you to the previous episode, the episode from 2 weeks ago when we talk about being cyclical, not consistent, but which doesn't show up consistently and which can't always understand instructions, can't always get started. Getting started on things is really hard. In the school system, the message we grew up with, if that is your brain type, is that you're lazy, you're naughty, you're hopeless, you're crap, all these things you can't do, very little focus on what you can do. So we have a situation where perhaps, 40% of the issue is your brain type and how to manage that, and that's fine. We all have things about ourselves we need to kind of figure out. But 60% of the problem is your low self-esteem because you've grown up thinking you're crap and hopeless and rubbish. And I hear it straight away. The first coaching call I'll have with someone and they'll say, "Oh, I'm really rubbish at this. I'm hopeless at that. You'll have to forgive me. Bear with me. I'm shit at this. I'm so crap." And I'm thinking, okay, I can hear the talk we grew up with here. We're going to need to unravel this because that low self-esteem is what holds you back way more than your brain type. And it breaks my heart, really, because, as I say, you are not broken. So how do you get stuff done if this is your brain? A few different things. Firstly, the most important is to go with your flow. Now, this is challenging because it's not how we've been taught to get anything done. But as usual, if you try and fight what is biologically normal for you, you're going to struggle. It's going to be hard. It's going to be exhausting. And you're probably not going to get anywhere anyway, but you're just going to feel like you failed. If you go with that energy flow, if when your energy is up, you go for it, you really do it. Perhaps you'd planned a quiet day, but no, we're creating, it's flowing, the muse is with me, the inspiration is here. Oh, go with it. And then when it disappears, recognize, forgive, adapt. Don't try to force what won't happen. Something I have really noticed about this kind of brain type is that actually I feel like it's rooted in self-love. So this is our mindset block alert for this episode. Because you may feel as though you're crap and hopeless because that's what you've been told. But I wonder, I'm not qualified in this stuff. I haven't researched this stuff. I wonder whether this brain type isn't the type that actually has the most self-love. Part of you that loves you absolutely refuses to allow you to push yourself past your energy levels. Those of us who can ignore our body's signals, work through overwhelm, keep going, show up all the time, the people who you were taught to think of as succeeding, we can push ourselves to burnout very easily because we're not listening. Whereas your body and brain absolutely refuse to let you do anything that you don't want to do or that you don't have the energy for. And you're told, oh, you're lazy, you're crap. No, you have a fantastic system that is trying to protect you from doing too much. So, as hard as it is, because, we're trying to get stuff done in this imperfect world, there is an element of celebration required. There is a recognition that your body is doing its very best. And again, I'm not scientifically qualified in this stuff, but I do know that if you have ADHD, your dopamine levels are low. So you're looking for the next dopamine hit. And as well as going with your flow, one thing to think about is how you take your rewards. So I talk about rewarding ourselves a lot, and typically the kind of standard is to reward ourselves when we've done something. So I'm recording this podcast episode. When it's done, I'm going to have another cup of coffee. Good job. That's done. For someone with a different brain type, it can actually be far more beneficial to have the reward first. So especially if we're thinking about children, if you do this, I'll give you a biscuit. We can debate parenting styles later, but maybe the biscuit first. Have a biscuit. Okay, now can you put your shoes on or whatever it is? Because if we increase the dopamine, give the reward first, then the brain's like, okay, right now I'm in a place where I can do the thing. So think about when you're rewarding yourself and how you're using those rewards and how you're using dopamine. The resistance to getting shit done that you don't want to do, I think, is really powerful, because why are you trying to do things that you don't want to do? And I know there's so much in this world we have to do that we don't want to do. But I am very much of the opinion that we cast out anything we don't want to do that we don't really have to do. Like, how much of your life is actually obligations that you've accepted, put upon yourself? They're stories, they're social stories. You think it's things you should do. How much of that can we bin? Because if we're already struggling, why are we trying to do stuff that we really don't want or need to do? So I think for people with this creative brain type, just cutting out the crap is going to be really, really beneficial. But also, it's about the stories we tell ourselves. So I know quite a few people who say, I just can't do it unless I've got a deadline. I think to myself, I'm going to start now and work on it over a few weeks and then it'll be done by the deadline. Can't do it. I always end up doing it last minute. I'll work through the night to complete it. What these people don't say, though, is that they ever miss a deadline. They never miss a deadline. They get it done. But they get it done in their way, which is last minute. But again, we've been taught that that's wrong. Why is it wrong? As long as the thing gets done, why is it wrong? The only reason it's a problem is if it causes you stress. And you're thinking to yourself, if I could just get started and work on it gently over a few weeks, then I wouldn't be so stressed. How about we flip that and say, I know I'm going to be stressed because it's the stress that gets me to do it. Here's the deadline. It's happening tomorrow. I'm stressed now. The adrenaline rises. Let's go. Let's do it. It's done. Okay. So rather than trying to avoid that, can we prepare ourselves for that? Can we set ourselves up for that? So whereas somebody else might be spending the previous weeks doing a bit, working on it now and again, working on it slowly, why don't you spend the previous time resting and looking after yourself and practicing insane levels of self-care, so that when the day comes and boom, we've got to do it, it's the deadline, let's go, you can handle that stress. You can handle that stress spike because you've filled your cup. These are not wrong ways to do things. They're just different ways to do things. And when you find the way that works for you, it is remarkable. I've heard from some people with ADHD that they can find themselves, particularly when they come out of the shower, which I think there's a thing there about showers and transitions that we don't have time for today, but they can find themselves sat in a towel on their bed and half an hour has passed. They've just been staring into space. And they think, what's wrong with me? That's terrible. What a waste of time. Again, I feel like it's just their body being incredibly loving and saying, I think you need to stop. I think we need a break. Who said we have to be doing all the time? Who said that? Where did that come from? Who's been saying that to you? Because I am challenging them. So maybe instead of questioning why you can't be someone else, how about understanding and recognizing and adapting to who you actually are? Because who you are is fantastic. And I know for a fact everyone listening has achieved loads of things and overcome loads of challenges and has every reason to be proud of themselves. So if that's the case, who cares how we did it? It's about how we nurture ourselves through it. There are numerous resources online for how to be organised if you have ADHD. And even if you don't think that is your brain type, it's worth checking them out because if some of them resonate, use them. Doesn't matter. You don't have to have an ADHD diagnosis to use colour coding if it works for you, for instance. So check out resources, have a little Google of what's out there, and you might find some systems that work really well for you. But my message is, as always, understand, forgive, adapt. You don't have to be anybody else. And if it feels like it's too hard, it's probably the system we're working within that is broken, because it's definitely not us. So how about we challenge some of those systems? And how about we take really good care of ourselves, be excessively kind to ourselves, no matter what our brain type, because then we can squeeze every last drop of enjoyment out of life. Speak to you next time. Thank you so much for listening. Did you know that my first book is now available to purchase online? Check out the show notes for details of how to get your hands on a copy. If you enjoyed this episode, I'd be so grateful if you could leave me a review, and don't forget to subscribe so you know when new episodes are up. If you would like to work with me one-to-one or follow more of my content, you can find out how in the show notes. See you next time.